There was once a man that dug a very large hole and stated that when he died, he wanted to be buried with his very expensive car. He posted this on social media and was instantly mocked, judged, and belittled for wanting to be buried with his material things. This same man then turned around and said, "You all mock me and judge me for wanting to be buried with my material belongings, and all of you are burying something more precious and more valuable than anything else in this world every day, your organs." Hi, my name is Laura Decker, and I want you to let that sink in while I talk to you today about organ donations and getting to know the facts. The American Kidney Foundation, the Children's Organ Transplant Association, and the American Transplant Foundation. What do all of these have in common? They all help aid and assist in finding organ donors and matching them with their recipients. Today we're going to talk about organizations that oversee in the facts, the process of organ donation, the recovery time and side effects, and also some myths and facts about organ donation. There might come a time in your life when either a family member, a friend, or even yourself might need an organ. So we want to make sure we have all the facts. First, we're going to talk about who does organ donations and, some facts from the DMV. The Division of Transportation, not to be confused with the Department of Transportation, is the primary federal entity that is responsible for overseeing organ transplant for the United States. The Organ Procurement and Transportation Network allocates and distributes these donor organs to recipients. According to DMV.gov, there are more than 120,000 Americans that are awaiting transplant. A new person is added to this list every 10 minutes. One donor can save up to 8 lives with all of the organs that we have. Unfortunately, on the flip side, there are approximately 22 people that die each day awaiting an organ transplant. We're going to look at a chart about how many people are waiting for organs, just to name a few. You've got kidneys, which you have over 99,000 people awaiting a kidney. Over 14,000 are waiting for a liver, 4,000 for a heart, nearly 1,500 for a lung, and almost 1,000 for a pancreas. That's a lot. In 2013, there were 14,257 organ donors that led to 28,953 transplants being performed. In 2015, there were 30,970 organ transplants performed, the first time that the number has ever reached 30,000 plus. That's a change of 2017. Unfortunately, as we saw by the chart before, it's still not enough. The next thing we're going to talk about are the 6 phases of organ donation and how we get there. You've got the sign-up phase, the critical care determination of death, the donor identification and consent, organ transport, organ transplant, and finally recovery. Let's go into a little bit further detail on these. The sign-up phase. You can do this at your local DMV or by going to your state's donor organ registry. Remember that if you're going to do it through the DMV, you don't have to wait for your license to expire to sign up. You can do this at any time. Also remember that only though sign-up takes minutes, it can take years for somebody to actually receive your organ. Next comes the determination of death phase. This is where somebody either gets into an accident or an illness that leads to death. There is extensive testing done to determine that you are in fact deceased. Then comes the donor identification and consent process. The Organ Procurement Organization is called out and verifies that you do have the potential to donate. From there, they'll pull all your medical history and figure out that you do have consent, and then we'll start the process. Next comes the organ transport phase. Once they've determined consent, your organs are removed and then they are shipped to the hospital where the donor recipient is waiting. The organ transplant phase begins immediately. As soon as your organs arrive, transplant on the donor starts. Then you've got the recovery phase, where the recipient recovers after the transplant. Next, we're going to go into more detail on the recovery phase and some side effects. Recovery can vary depending on a lot of different things. It depends on the type of transplant you have. A kidney transplant can take several days in the hospital, while a heart transplant you can be recovering for over 2 weeks. It also varies by each person. Our bodies are all different. So while one person may take a shorter time to heal, another person may take longer. Some side effects that can happen is your body rejecting the organ. That is a major concern for doctors. Also, medication for life. Your doctors will prescribe you an anti-rejection drug that you will have to take for the rest of your life in order to make sure that your body does not reject that organ. You're also more susceptible to becoming sick. People that receive a donor organ are advised to stay away from people with even so much as a common cold, as this can lead to death. Also, even getting routine dental work is no longer routine, as you can get an infection. You will spend months in and out of the hospital, going back for follow-ups and checkups, making sure that your body receives that donor. It is a definite lifestyle change. Next, we're going to talk about the myths versus the facts. A lot of people don't like to talk about this because when you think about donating an organ, you think about death, and not a lot of us want to do that. Well, here's some myths that I want to go over. First, I'm too old or too young. You are never too old or too young to become an organ donor. Children need organs too. Another myth is that if they find out at the hospital you're an organ donor, the doctors might not want to save your life. The fact is, when you go into the hospital, your doctor has one priority, and that is saving your life, regardless of whether or not you're an organ donor. Another myth is that a doctor may declare me dead before it's too late. Remember we talked about earlier, extensive testing is done to make sure that you are in fact deceased. Your religion doesn't condone it. Most religions actually do condone organ donation and not push it, but encourage it because they looked at it as a last act of good faith. My family would be charged for their donation. Any donations done post-mortem, your family is not charged for. And there's also a couple others on here. I hope this helps clear up some of the facts about why people don't want to become an organ donor. So, doctors are legally obligated to have one focus, and that's you. Organ donation is not something that we want to talk about because it scares us, but I want you to have all the facts. So we've gone over, I hope I've given you knowledge. We've gone over how many people are in need, the process of organ donation, the recovery and side effects, and the myths. I just want to leave you with this one final thing. The UNOS organization said, without the organ donor, there is no story, no hope, no transplant. But when there is an organ donor, life springs from death, sorrow turns to hope, and a terrible loss becomes a gift. Thank you.